The village of Nsukka sat nestled between rolling hills where the wind whispered secrets and the rivers carried forgotten prayers. In this village, two souls were bound together from childhood, Oluchi and Greg Olu. They were inseparable, spending their childhood under the shade of the ancient mango tree, chasing fireflies in the warm night air, sharing roasted corn during harmattan, and crafting dreams beneath the starry sky. To the villagers, they were like siblings, destined to be together in one way or another. But Oluchi's heart beat differently. She had loved Greg for years, hiding it beneath playful nudges and stolen glances, hoping that one day he would look at her, not as a sister, but as a woman. She tried everything to make him see her soft touches, her finest clothes, her homemade meals. But Greg remained blind, treating her like the little girl he had always known. One evening, as they sat by the river, Oluchi asked, "What kind of woman do you see yourself marrying?" Greg shrugged. "Someone kind, simple, a good cook." Her heart pounded. Maybe, just maybe. Then he added, "But I don't have to look far. I already have you as my sister, so I know what a good woman looks like." Sister. The word cut through her like a blade, shattering every silent hope she had ever held onto. That night, she cried into her pillow, wondering if he would ever see her the way she saw him. Everything changed at the Moon Festival, when Oluchi spent hours dressing up, wrapping herself in her finest red Ankara gown, determined to capture Greg's attention. But when she arrived at the festival, she saw him, not looking at her, but at Nkechi, a village beauty with dimples that melted hearts. Greg leaned in, whispering something that made Nkechi giggle. Oluchi's heart clenched. She had already lost him. The next day, under the mango tree, Greg spoke with excitement in his voice. "Oluchi, there is this girl I met. I think I like her." A sharp pain struck her chest. "Who?" she whispered. "Nkechi. She's beautiful, kind, and I feel something special when I'm around her." Oluchi's world shattered. The words she had buried for years rose like fire from her throat. "Greg, I love you." Silence. Greg blinked, stunned. "What?" "I have loved you for years, Greg. Every time I prayed for you. I thought one day you would see me. But you never did." Greg's face twisted in disbelief and guilt. He took a step back. "Oluchi, I never knew, but you are like a sister to me." That word again. Tears streamed down her face. Her body trembled, her breath unsteady. "Is that all I'll ever be to you?" Greg's voice was soft. "I never meant to hurt you." But he did. She ran, disappearing into the dark forest, the sound of the wind echoing her breaking heart. She had waited too long. She had loved in silence for too long. And now she was drowning in it. Deep in the woods, an old woman sat by a fire, watching her. "You are lost," the woman said. "I don't want to love him anymore. I want this pain to end." The woman tilted her head. "Love is fire, child. It can warm or burn. Are you ready to let go of the flame?" But Oluchi didn't know. Desperate, she went to Mama Udoka, the village priestess, who handed her a small vial. "One drop of this, and Greg will love only you." Her fingers trembled around the vial. She wanted to believe in love, the kind that came naturally. But if Greg couldn't love her on his own, was it wrong to make him? That night, she prepared his favorite Zobo drink and sat across from him. Her hands shook as she lifted the vial. Just one drop, and he would be hers. But before she could add the potion, Greg spoke. "I need to tell you something." She froze. "Nkechi rejected me," he admitted, his voice heavy. "She doesn't love me the way I love her. I feel empty, Oluchi." Oluchi's fingers tightened around the vial. Fate was mocking her. She had prayed for Greg to feel what she had felt all these years. And now he did. She could give him the potion and make him love her. Or she could do what was right. With a deep breath, she pushed the cup away. "You don't need this," she whispered. "Need what?" Greg asked. She smiled sadly. "Something that isn't real." And for the first time, she accepted the truth. Greg was never meant to be hers. Days passed, and Greg changed. He pursued her the way she had once pursued him. He brought her flowers, whispered her name like it was precious, told her he couldn't imagine life without her. But Oluchi had already let go. One evening, she returned to Mama Udoka. "I think I have won the love I prayed for," she said. The old woman studied her. "And yet you are not happy." Oluchi lowered her gaze. "Because it came too late," Mama Udoka sighed. "Love is like the wind. You cannot catch it in your hands. If it does not come freely, it was never yours to keep." Her words sank deep. She had spent years praying for something that was never hers. And now, when she no longer wanted it, fate decided to give it to her. But fate was cruel. Just as Greg was ready to propose, tragedy struck. A sudden illness took hold of him. The village healer said it was a sickness of the heart. Greg lay in bed, weak and pale. Mama Udoka looked at Oluchi and whispered, "This is what happens when a man fights fate." She sat beside him, holding his hand, the same hands she had longed to hold for years. "Why now?" she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Why did you wait until it was too late?" Greg smiled faintly. "Because I was a fool." His fingers tightened around hers. "But I love you." She let out a broken sob. "And I loved you when it mattered." Greg's eyes fluttered shut. A single tear slipped down his cheek. And then he was gone. The village mourned. Oluchi sat by the river, staring at the wooden bench where they once dreamed of a future that was never meant to be. She held a single white candle in her hands, and as she lit it, the wind whispered, "Love is fire, and sometimes it burns too late." The end. If you enjoyed this journey, there's so much more waiting for you. Subscribe now for more thrilling and emotional stories. Like and comment. Tell me your thoughts. Share with friends and let the story live on. Turn on notifications. Never miss an update. Join the community and let's keep the stories alive. Hit that subscribe button now.